Okay, so we are here at the GameSpot War Room, and G, you have just got back from seeing
Star Wars 1313. This is the game that was kind of officially announced a little bit before the show. And as LucasArts positions it, it's the first mature game in the LucasArts portfolio, which is...
Does that mean M for mature rating?
Based on some of the things that have already been shown in the demo, I would not be surprised if the game actually got an M.
But they can't actually come out and really
No, and I think what they're trying to basically do is look, for the older Star Wars audience, this is something that you will appreciate more than the kids out there that love Clone Wars and sort of the younger focused subject matter that they've been putting out as of late. That's kind of the basis. So 1313 is in reference to a level on Coruscant that is kind of represents the criminal underbelly of the capital world in the Star Wars universe.
It's Coruscant's hive of scum and villainy.
It is. So in the demo, the first thing LucasArts actually want to point out was that this is the first time where they've actually had ILM, Lucasfilm Animation, Skywalker Sound, all of them really working together to make a project. So to the point that ILM actually made a processing pipeline where they could easily transfer assets back and forth and things like that. And it shows. This game looks incredible. It's one of the first games I've seen where I'm just completely struck by how much it looks like a movie. And I know that sounds really lame because we see games all the time that are really cinematic, but there's a way that the animation occurs and the lighting and even just little small things, the way that blaster fire looks, it all looks authentic. And it's very cinematic. It is a third-person shooter, so from that respect, it's not so surprising. We got to see a little bit of the action as these two bounty hunters basically go down to 1313. They're transporting cargo.
So co-op first-person shooter or third-person?
So the other guy looked like it was an AI. And basically what he'll do is hey, come over, one scene we saw, he's actually holding one of the bounty, so they get attacked on their way down.
Yeah.
And he's holding one of the bounty hunters that was attacking him and says, hey, come over here and punch him, so you just run up to him and punches him, and things like that. So that's a little taste of what we saw, of at least interacting with an AI buddy. But it's just a great scene. So these guys are transporting this guy down into 1313. They get jumped by other bounty hunters. They come and take the cargo, and then the ship's blowing up around them, and the fire effects look awesome. Another really stupid thing to say, but they just look really awesome. And the ship's falling apart around them. And there's one scene where your bounty hunter boss, kind of buddy guy, takes one of the bounty hunters that was jumping them, throws him in a Star Wars escape pod, and then throws the detonator in with them, shuts the door, kicks the escape pod out into the other ship where it explodes. The other ship is falling apart. So these two guys jump from their ship onto the exploding ship to get their mark back, and it's crazy. It looks fantastic.
So that sounds like kind of a set piece sort of event. How open-ended is the gameplay?
I mean, it seems like it's funneling you. I mean, for them to kind of achieve sort of that very cinematic look, it looks like it's very much kind of pushing you along a set path, at least for this kind of set piece moment. The best way I can describe it, it's almost as if the guys who developed Enslaved did a Star Wars game. It made me remember that opening scene in Enslaved where you're on the ship and it's just kind of things are falling apart and things like that. But it's very, very cinematic, very cool. Really looking forward to it.
Awesome. God, well, I don't even know what to ask now.
I mean, it's really an impressive. They kind of did the whole spiel about just the animation process and how they're building the character models and all that stuff and how ILM's involved. The facial animation looks great. They're doing facial animation that's similar to what you're seeing in the Quantic Dream game, Beyond. So that seems to be kind of a growing theme, is just the nailing down of authentic facial animations to express emotion when the script can't really express that emotion itself.
So with that mature thing, does that come through in the bounty hunters because they are bounty hunters and they do things like kick dudes into escape pods with a detonator?
Yeah, I mean,
because the blasters seem like a really kind of clean, clinical way to kill people compared to a Sith lightsaber or something.
Well, see, that's the thing with the bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe. At least the precedent set by Han Solo is that they're just kind of, swarthy guys who get a kick out of doing stuff to people. And the guy that you're partnered with, they wouldn't actually give us any story details about the characters in the game. In fact, what we saw, they said that was actually a replacement main character. It wasn't the real main character. But the banner between them back and forth is pretty much what you would expect from bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe, where money is more important than anything else, and doing the job, getting paid.
Well, I'm hoping that the main character is actually IG-88 because he is like the least meat-headed third-person shooter protagonist that I could ever think of.
Yeah, that's sort of the question that gets raised when you're watching this, is how are they going to tie this into stuff that we all recognize? I mean, are they going to drop
is it going to be
Boba Fett or things like that?
Are you going to have a brief meeting with Han Solo?
Yeah,
like, oh, it's Han Solo.
Well, the one thing that's funny is that it's hard to sort of gauge what time frame it's in. I would guess that it's closer to the
Old
original
Republic or original trilogy?
Okay. Based on the way that the other bounty hunter ship looked, but it's kind of hard to say. I'm not
based on how it looked.
It's hard to
like. Does it look like a Slave One or something?
Frank can attest to this. Stuff in the prequel trilogy all looks really like slick. It's not blocky. It's like rounded.
Yeah.
Whereas stuff in the original trilogy is all very square and sharp angles. So these ships are all kind of like that.
Man, that's like a weird regression of style to have happened over the course of about 20 years or so.
Yeah, well, it's just the backfiring of doing a prequel trilogy after you've already done the original trilogy, and
making the one in the 70s and then like the other after we have CG.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That answers not nearly everything that I want to know about the game, but I think it answers about all the questions that you can answer right now.
Yeah, and they're not really saying, they wouldn't say anything about the story, nothing, not naming characters, not even naming the time period specifically, so... Yeah.
This isn't the Clint Hawking game
No, so they actually specifically mentioned that this is one of 2 games that they're working on at LucasArts.
Okay.
So I would have ventured to guess that Clint Hawking of Far Cry 2 fame, he is working on the other game.
Okay. So you could answer that question.
Yes.
That's about it. Are we done? Can you answer that question?
We're done. Star Wars 1313. Mighty impressive.